Hi, I'm Bill Wetzel from surfratsball.com, and today I'm going to talk to you about the rods that I use. Not necessarily the rods that are best for you, but they're the rods that are best for me. Just to let you know, I don't have any sponsors, so I'm not giving you a bunch of BS. And being a guy for over 20 years, I have the opportunity of using many different rods. All the new brands and all the new rods I have used. I haven't used them extensively, but I've used them with my customers when I take them out on charters. So, that being said, let me tell you about a little bit of history about rods, what we used to use. This rod I'm holding in my hand is a Sabar blank. Back in the day, we all used the Lambo Glass S-Glass. They were fiberglass. They were 11.5-foot rods. Partly because of Doc Muller, probably because he was a big advocate of those rods. So everybody had one. I was a kid, back then, I'm in my teens. I really couldn't afford one. So what I got is a Sabar 11.5 fiberglass rod that I now call Man Killer. I don't even use it anymore. But the one thing I want you to check out the guides on these rods. On this rod. This is a custom built rod. 1, 2, 3, 4 huge guides. Back then it was mono. So, and the idea was, I had a big Pen 706 on this probably, and it would come out, and then it would contract around this first guide, and then get smaller. Same concept as today, but we don't have that memory like the mono had. The lines today have no memory. If you don't know what memory is, just look it up, Google it. Okay, post fiberglass rods, the Kennedy Fishers came out. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you can post it in the Surf Rats Ball or whatever, but I believe that those were the real first true graphite blanks after the fiberglass. And you want to hand me this rod right here, Rose? This rod right there. This rod. That rod right there. She's going to hand me my Kennedy Fisher. And here we go. Thank you. This is a Kennedy Fisher. Not that you can really tell from what I'm showing you right now, but it's kind of the same setup. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guides, 5 main guides instead of 4, and then the tip. But then after the Kennedy Fishers, the Lambo Glass came out with the GSBs, the Graphite surf blanks. And those are the ones I'm still using today. They came out probably, I guess, late 80s, early 90s. Mine is probably early 90s. Before I get into the rods I use, I want to talk to you about parabolic and slow versus fast action rods. There's been a lot said about what parabolic this and parabolic that. Listen, the old rods, like this old Sabar blank, 11.5-foot fiberglass blank, were probably the most parabolic rods that you'll ever have. As a matter of fact, this rod, since it loads throughout the rod from tip to butt, will probably outcast any rod, any of the new rods of today. I'll put this thing up against anything, and it'll go. These big guys, the line just flies through it. It's unbelievable, really. A lot of guys will say, no way, Bill, that's not going to happen. The rods today are superior. They may be superior, but I'm telling you, if you want distance, this rod will do it. But let's talk about fast versus slow action. Now, fast action tips are tips that are very stiff on top, and they don't necessarily bend throughout the rod. Slow action tips, slow action rods are slower on the tip, and they're usually more parabolic. I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to put this old fiberglass Sabar blank up against this Century Noreaster blank. The Century Noreaster is a very stiff, fast rod, and here we go. So I'll apply basically the same amount of pressure to these rods. See how the this is the fiberglass Sabar. This is the Century Noreaster. See the difference in that? See how the Century is not really bending towards the butt, and this rod's bending throughout the rod? See the difference in action? This would be considered a great pencil popper rod. This one, completely different, way faster. The faster rods are usually way easier to cast. You don't even have to take a big load. It's a very easy load, and they just go. But these, they load like a slingshot, and they just go. So it's up to you what you like. Certainly, probably not the 05 glass rods. You'll kill your back. So let's get to my rods. Okay. This is my honey, my baby, my sweetheart. This is my main go-to rod for most of my surf fishing. It's a Lambo Glass GSB 132-1M, which simply means Graphite surf blank. Lambo Glass is the brand. Graphite surf blank, 132 is the length. One piece, medium action. Now, in general, I like a one piece. I'm not going to get into, you know, if you live in an apartment or anything, I mean, you want to go with a two piece, go with a two piece. It's fine. I do feel like the one piece, there's just less problems with the one piece. I do feel like you get a little bit better, in general, better feel for the one piece. I got a 275 on this, Vaughn style, taped on. I like the reels taped on simply because you can move them. I can move it here. I can move it here. I can put the reel wherever I want. When I grab it, I don't feel that metal, and I do feel like you get an extra feel on it. A lot of people will argue that you don't, but I feel like you get extra feel, so I always tape them on. I like it that way. Plus, you know, if you're going to get it built, it's probably a little bit less expensive as well. Now the GSBs were, I think, the first Lambo Glass surf rods that they made in graphite. And this rod, this is actually the second rod I have. It was built like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago by my rod builder Luke Caruso. But before that, I had the same exact blank built in, you know, early 90s. And the great thing about this rod is it takes a friggin' beating. You know, you're climbing out the rocks, you know, you drop it. You know, it has balls to really horse a fish in it if you need to. You can fish this rod anywhere on the East Coast pretty much for striped bass. It will throw. It's got a sweet spot probably around 2.5, 2 3/4 ounce. Right there's a sweet spot. 3 ounces even is a good spot for this rod, and it'll go down to 3/4 of an ounce and you could still feel it. You get in the 1/2 ounce range, you're not going to feel it anymore. So and it's a slower rod. It's a slower rod than most of the rods today because I think it's because it's a lower grade graphite. So let me show you. I'll do a shadow cast with this, and you can check out. This is not an actual cast, but hopefully you can see kind of the bend of the rod. Bend. That's the recovery. Recovery meaning after you make the cast, is how much of this do you get from the rod. I'll do that again. Now I like my rods, if possible, set up with the old school guide system. This rod has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a tip. I don't like, I guess, what they call the concept guides now, where there's a you'll see I do have a couple with the concept guides on them, but I hate a bunch of guides on here. What the hell do you need a bunch of guides for? What is it? You're gonna save like a 1/2 ounce of weight, and you're gonna get 2 feet extra distance. Meanwhile, when you're on a rock in the middle of the night and you got a 25-knot wind blowing in your face, and you break the line, now you got to take the line and go through all those little guides. It's a complete pain in the ass. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I like bigger guides, less of them. Personally, that's not. You may not like that. You probably may not do the kind of fishing that I do. But this is my main go-to rod. I love this rod. Love, 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 love. Next. Okay, this is my Century Noreaster. This is my other go-to heavy surf rod. I usually use this rod when I'm getting tired towards the end of the season. I got elbow problems, I got shoulder problems, all these problems just from fishing all these years. This rod, once again, it's got a VS 250 on it, taped on. The other one that I just showed you, the Lambo Glass, has 50-pound test Power Pro. This is 30-pound test, just a little easier to cast for me. And you notice the guides. It's got that, you know, multi 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guides in the tip. So it's got that all those guides on it. Lou said that's the way you have to build it, so I had him build it that way. This rod actually comes in two piece. I had him glue it, and now it's a 1-piece. Like I said, I love the 1-piece. I don't want any problems, so it's glued on. It's converted into a 1-piece. This rod, compared to the last rod that you've seen, which was the GSB, is much easier to load. So if I wanted to load this rod, I wouldn't be coming all the way back. Boom! It's just, you know, it's such a fast tip. It loads like right away. So there it is. Recovery. 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 Just all around, and it's very ballsy. This rod is big balls, this rod. In other words, if I need to horse a big fish, I can do it. I can drag a big fish around any rock. I can gain on them. It's a great rod. I mean, if I didn't have that GSB, I would probably just use this. Next. All right, this is a Century Stealth 10-foot. It's very light. And it's a slower action rod. I usually use this in most of my back bay situations or light surf. Now you say, oh, 10 foot, it's a little bit big for a back bay. Yeah, you know, I use a 10, I use a 9, I use a 7. But in general, I like this 10 just simply because if I have to reach out and touch something, I can. This rod, sweet spot. We got a dog. Dogs are coming, so we're going to get barking now. So this rod's sweet spot is about I want to say about 2 ounces, or even 1.5 ounces, but I can throw 3 no problem, even 3.5. 4's get kind of crazy, and I can really feel down to about 1/2 ounce, or maybe even a little bit less than that. See, this has way more parabolic than the last rod. Recovery, pretty quick recovery on this. See that? I pair this up, taped on, with the VS200 30-pound Power Pro. Once again, you say, well, 30-pound might be a little bit much for the back bay. I like it. I don't like to go be below 30-pound if I don't have to. Century Stealth. Great rod for back bay, light surf. Next. Okay, this is a GSB 108, I think, or a 109, 108, 1L. It's a 9-foot, 1-piece blank graphite. It's, you know, it was kind of came around when that original GSB came around that I showed you before. This is a great rod for a back bay. It's a great rod for kids. My daughter Rosie uses this all the time. This is her name. This is her rod. It's actually got her name on it. I don't know if you can see that. Lou put that on there. And what else can I say about this rod? It will handle. I mean, you can feel a 1/4 ounce easy with this rod. You can fish. I don't know what the ratings are. The ratings to me are a bunch of BS anyway. I don't go by ratings. I go by how the rod performs. So 1/4 ounce you can feel with this, even 3/8 of an ounce, and you can probably get away with casting 3.5 ounces with this. Maybe a little bit more if you had to, but I never cast that heavy. I rarely go beyond 1.5 ounces with this rod. Here it is. Very parabolic, right? And there's recovery. Very fast recovery on this one. Look at that. So this rod, GSB 108 1L or 109 1L, I don't know what it is. It's the 9-foot L, and they made the medium as well. The medium's a little heavier than this. Medium's a great rod too. Medium's a great rod for jetty. It's a kick-ass rod. For like jetties, and when you got a horse fish and you want that back cast, you don't have room for a back cast, the 1M is a great alternative. I got a little pen put on this one until Rosie graduates. She's gonna get a Von style, and that's basically it for the GSB, right, Rosie? She's taking the camera. She's my camera lady. This is another back bay rod. This is a Lambo Glass GLB. From what I understand, no longer made. Now you may be saying, "Oh, Bill, why don't you review the new rods? Why don't you review this? Why don't you review that?" These, in my opinion, are as good or better than any new rods of today. For me, for what I do. Like I said, I've used most of the new rods today. This is what I still use. I like it. Probably because I'm set in my ways. I don't know. But these still kick-ass, these Lambo glasses. So this is a GLB, a 7-foot rod, and they made an M and an L. This is the M. The L, if you have the GLB and you get an L, you're able to get one, and you cast into a wind, it goes nowhere. The M is great. Now I'll use this when I have to get really, really in a tight area, where I have to cast, say I'm fishing a drain or something in the back bays, definitely a back bay rod, and I have to hit like a little piece of grass or something like that, and I have to be very accurate with my cast. Perfect. Sod banks, perfect. That perfect rod for that kind of stuff. I don't use it that much because I usually I'm in Montauk in a surf. So I used to use it a lot. I use it a lot less. I have the old Ahab. Remember these, the Findor Ahab? Great little reel, great drag. Notice the mono on this too. I like the mono for my light stuff. Let me show you. It's very parabolic. Pretty fast recovery. You know, notice even with the small rod, putting it up here, getting my leverage with my left hand, and coming down with it, and then in between my legs. You can actually use this. This can double as a nice little boat rod too. I've done a lot of trips on boats with this. Not that I do a lot of trips on boats, but when I do, I'm taking this one. Awesome. It's just so light, so nice. I love it. Alright, this little bad boy is another Lambo Glass. It's the Lambo Glass GSB 121M, and it was made probably early to mid-90s, so it's one of the original. The newer Lambo Glass are not the same as these. The old school are so just be aware, it's not the same rod as the original GSBs. There is actually 3 generations, I believe, of GSBs. This is the original. So were all my Lambo glasses were the original ones. Very similar layout, guide layout to my 132 1M. Very similar to the 132. Not quite as soft as the 132. A little bit stiffer than the 132. But back then, all the Lambo Glass GSBs were a little bit different anyway. You know, sometimes you had to go 2 or 3 to pick out the one you really want. Let's see, what else about this rod? This rod's a 10-foot. GSB 121M. One-piece 10-foot rod. So this rod I would use, like if I'm fishing bridges or if I'm fishing the lighthouse, anywhere where I need a really ballsy rod where I don't have that back cast. What I mean by the back cast, when I'm coming back with the rod and the leader's hitting a rock behind me, or maybe a bridge piling or something like that, that extra foot less makes a big difference when you're talking about that kind of stuff. This rod too, it's a 10-foot, but this rod will get you anywhere around the East Coast in heavy or light surf. I can easily punch a bucktail through a 30-40 knot wind with this. Sweet spot is probably around 2.5 to 3 ounces, very similar to the 132, and you can feel probably it's a little bit less. I would say anything under 3/4 you can't really feel. 3/4 of an ounce. So and you can punch it up to, I don't know how far it can go, really. I think it's rated to 8 ounces, but believe me, you throw an 8 ounce with this, you're going to crack the rod. So, you know, probably 5, 6 ounces, you might be safe. 6 ounces would really be pushing the limits. I probably have thrown 5 in inlets with this, you know, on jig heads. But it's a great rod. It's a great all-around rod. GSB 121M. Next up, we have Rosie Wetzel, and wait till you hear what she has to say about the new Lambo Glass Carbon Surf.
Hi, my name is Rosie Wetzel, and this is the new Lambo Glass Carbon Surf rod, and it's paired up with the VR200 and
VR200 what?
Von Stahl.
Right.
And it's really nice. It's really light. It's a good rod. I really like it.
And how old are you, Rose?
10.
10 years old. So you went from a 9-foot rod recently to that 10-foot rod.
Yeah.
Do you feel any difference between the 9-foot, the GSB 1081L that you were using, and this 10-foot carbon surf? Do you feel a difference?
The 9-foot, it was like it was like when you cast it, it would be hard to like get right on it because it was, I feel like it was different because I don't know, I feel like it was different because it was shorter.
Uh-huh. So it was a little maybe harder to cast bigger plugs maybe?
Yeah.
Bigger lures? And this one, do you find this one easier to cast than the 9-foot?
I didn't really like the bucktails on the 9-foot because it didn't really work that well because I don't know. I just
that one just probably go. That one being a 10-foot probably just goes further, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you want to show everybody how you can cast that?
Okay.
Just take a cast. There's no lure on it, but just take a fake cast. Nice, right? So Lambo Glass Carbon Surf, recommended by Rosie. Nice light 10-foot rod, right?
Yeah.
All right, so that's all my rods that I use. Like I said, I don't have any sponsors. I'm not going to give you a bunch of BS. Come to the surfratsball.com and join our membership. We talk about rods all the time, all kinds of rods. Not only these rods, any rod on the market that's out there, new rods, old rods, fishing line, all kinds of stuff. Probably the most informative place on the internet for surf fishing. And I am your host. Please consider coming to the Surf Rats Ball and joining us. See you there.